ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवंश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। Hare Krishna, welcome back. So today we are going to start a new chapter, a very special chapter, chapter 12, Bhakti Yoga. So as we see in the previous chapter, Arjuna witnessed the universal form of the Lord. And now he has a very interesting question in his mind, with which this chapter is starting. So this is a very small chapter consisting of 20 verses only, and it can be divided into 3 sections. The first section is the first shloka to 7th shloka, only 7 shlokas, where there is a comparison between personal form and impersonal form that we can see. And verses 8 to 12, they say about the steps of bhakti, that is a gradual development. And in the end, that is the third section, verse number 13 to verse number 20, the qualities of a bhakta are described. So we will start. With the first shloka. Arjuna Uvacha Evam Satatayuktaye Bhaktastvam Paryupasate Ye Chapyaksharamavyaktam Tesham Ke Yoga Vittamaha. Synonyms. Arjuna Uvacha, Arjuna said, Evam, thus, Satata, always, Yuktaha, engaged, Ye, those who, Bhaktaha, devotees, Tvam, you, Pariyupasate, properly worship, Ye, those who, Cha, and also, Api, again, Aksharam, beyond the senses, Avyaktam, the unmanifested, Tesham, of them, Ke, who, Yoga Vittamaha, the most perfect in knowledge of yoga. Translation. Arjuna inquired, which are considered to be more perfect, those who are always properly engaged in your devotional service, or those who worship the impersonal Brahman, the unmanifested? So, a very beautiful question asked by Arjuna. This question was in my mind also, and I believe it is there in many people's mind. So we see after 11th chapter also, after seeing the universal form, the cosmic form, the Vishwarupa, and knowing all the vibhutis of the Lord, why Arjuna asks this question, that which path is the best? Now see, there are certain reasons why Arjuna asks this question. The first is to recheck whether his own realization is correct or not. Definitely, after listening Bhagavad Gita from the Lord for long 11 chapters, Arjuna must have realized something. He must have had realized something, and he wanted to recheck this, that what he had realized, whether it is correct or not. Second point is, Arjuna knew that Brahma Upasana is a very difficult process. So that is why he is little doubtful about the outcome of this sadhana. And number 3, whether do his likings and the truth match or not. Being a bhakta, definitely he was inclined to the worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that is the personal form of the Lord, and not the impersonal form. So he wanted to check it also, that whether his likings and the truth match or not. And number 4 is his desire to hear the supremacy of bhakti. In his mind, in his heart, he wanted to hear the supremacy of bhakti from the lotus mouth of the Lord. As the Lord said in 6.47, that is, yoginam api sarvesham madgatena antaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yoma samyuktatamo mataha. And we see in some other places also Bhagavan said about the indicated about the supremacy of bhakti, as he and some beautiful promises also. That is when Bhagavan says in 9th chapter, 30 and 31, api chet sudaracharo bhajati mam ananya bhak sadhureva samantavyaha samyak vyavasito hi saha. And especially 31, Shipram bhavati dharmatma shashvachanti nigacchati kaunteya pratijanihi name bhakta pranashyati. So, Arjuna, you can boldly declare it that my devotees never perish. So, kaunteya pratijanihi name bhakta pranashyati. So, these promises and strong indicative words from the lotus mouth of the Lord, they all had a strong impact on Arjuna's mind. So Arjuna actually desires to hear the supremacy of bhakti. And in the last verse of chapter 11, as we see how he concludes, Bhagavan concludes, Mat karma krit paramo mad bhaktaha sangavarjitaha nirvaira sarva bhuteshu yassa mameti pandava. So here also it is clearly mentioned that mat karma krit paramo mad bhaktaha sangavarjitaha. So especially this mat karma krit paramo and mad bhaktaha, these two words, that is, who engages in my pure devotional service and who works for me and who are my devotees with undeviated mind. So they will definitely come to me. It was Bhagavan's assurance in the last verse of chapter 11 also. So this is the reason also. And the last reason, that is because it is a little confusion in Arjuna's mind, because in some places in Bhagavad Gita, the Lord glorifies jnana also, that is knowledge. So definitely in our mind, sometimes a confusion may arise. That is, as Bhagavan says in 4.36, api chedasi papebhyaha sarvebhyaha papakrittamaha sarvam jnana plaveneva rijinam santarishyasi. So even if you are considered to be the most sinful of all the sinful people, that is, papebhyaha sarvebhyaha papakrittamaha sarvam jnana plaveneva, then also if you are situated in the boat of transcendental knowledge, sarva jnana plaveneva vrijinam santarishyasi, the boat of transcendental knowledge, you will be able to cross the ocean of miseries. So that Bhagavan said in 4.36, And again in 7.17, Bhagavan says, Tesham jnani nitya yukta eka bhaktir visishyate priyo hi jnaninotyartham aham sacha mama priyaha. So these are some verses where he did not express the bhava completely to everyone. So confusion may arise. That is, here Bhagavan says that one who is in full knowledge, Nitya Yukta Eka Bhaktir Visishyate, Tesham Jnani Nitya Yukta Eka Bhaktir Visishyate. So, who is in full knowledge and who is always engaged in pure devotional service, Eka Bhaktir Visishyate, he is the best. Because for him, Bhagavan is very dear, and for Bhagavan also he is very dear. So, though here it is Eka Bhaktir Visishyate, this particular word has a very sublime indication towards bhakti, but still Tesham Jnani, this can confuse many people. So Arjuna wanted to be sure that as Krishna glorified Jnana in some places in Bhagavad Gita, so he wanted to be sure. He wanted to clear all his confusions. So these 5 points we can get, that is, to recheck whether his own realization is correct or not. Number 2, Brahma Upasana is very difficult process. Number 3, whether do his likings and the truth match or not. And 4 is desire to hear the supremacy of bhakti. And 5, to clear the confusion because Krishna glorified Jnana in some places. Okay, so now we will see what Bhagavan answers. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Mayyavisya mano ye mam nitya yukta upasate shraddhaya parayopetaste me yukta tamamataha. Synonyms. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Mai, upon me, Avishya, fixing, Manaha, the mind, Ye, those who, Mam, me, Nitya, always, Yuktaha, engaged, Upasate, worship, Shraddhaya, with faith, Paraya, transcendental, Upetaha, endowed, Te, they, Me, by me, Yuktatamaha, most perfect in yoga, Mataha, are considered. Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, those who fix their minds on my personal form and are always engaged in worshipping me with great and transcendental faith are considered by me to be most perfect. So this is, we see, a journey from yoginam api sarvesham madgatenantaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yomam same yuktatamo mataha 6.47 to this मयि आवेश्य मनो ये मां नित्ययुक्त उपासते श्रद्धया परयोपेता ते मे युक्ततमा मतः. ते मे युक्ततमा मतः. So same yuktatamo matah to from same yuktatamo matah to te me yuktatama matah. It is a long journey from chapter 6 to chapter 12. So as Bhagavan is proving it again, and he says, see, why devotional service is perfect? In a very sublime manner, he says here, Mai aveshya, that is fixing the mind on the personal form. And it is easy. It is easy. We see the process, Bhakti Yoga, includes constant engagement in the worship of the Lord. Mai aveshya anitya yukta upasate. And then we see Shraddhaya, that is worshipping with great faith. And Paraya, that is transcendental. Works done in Krishna consciousness is not material, it is always transcendental. And devotee can attain full samadhi for the constant engagement. Yuktatama. That is why for this constant engagement, the samadhi stage can be attained in a much easier manner, and the chances are much higher. See, in this connection, Srila Vishwanatha Chakrabarti Thakura, he says, this Paraya Shraddhaya, he says that endowed with faith beyond the gunas, that is transcendental faith. In the second line, Shraddhaya Paraya Shraddhaya Paraya Upetaha. So, Baladeva Vidya Bhushana, he also says that the association, worship with firm faith, constant association with the Lord by worshipping Him with firm faith, this is the best. And Srila Prabhupada also says, devotee is most perfect in yoga, here in his purport, and in different places also. And we see Vishwanatha Chakrabarti Thakura also says in his Tika that my devotees are the best. And Baladeva Vidya Bhushana also in his commentary, he says that my devotees are most qualified. They have the quickest method for attaining me. And Srila Prabhupada also gives the reference from Śrimad Bhagavatam 11.25.27, that is, faith in my devotional service is fully transcendental. So that is why we see Bhagavan says here, he is Yuktatama. Arjuna's question was, Tesham ke yoga vittama? Yogavit, so who is perfect in yoga? Yogavittara, that is higher in degree, and Yogavittama, that is the highest in degree. He is the most perfect. Yogavit, perfect. Yogavittaraha, more perfect. And Yogavittamaha, the most perfect. And Bhagavan says, yes, he, one who is always fixed with their minds on my personal form and who are always engaged in worshipping me with great transcendental faith, I consider them to be the most perfect. Yoga Vittama. And Bhagavan says Yukta Dama. The same. So we see Vishwanatha Chakrabarti Thakura also says that worship of impersonal form is troublesome, so inferior that we will discuss in the later verses. And Baladeva Vidya Bhushana also says that realization with great suffering and time consuming. That is, Bahuna Janmana Mante Jnanavan Ma Prapadyate Vasudeva Sarvamiti Samahatma Sudurlabha. So definitely he will come to the point of perfect realization, but it may take little time. Bahuna Janmana Mante. So after many births, many lifetimes, he will come to this point. So it is considered as inferior. Okay. And in the next two verses together, we will see 3 and 4 that we will recite together. Ye tvaksharamanirdishyam avyaktam pariyupasate sarvatra gamachintyam cha kūtasthamachalam dhruvam. Sorry. Kūtasthamachalam dhruvam sanniyamyendriyagramam sarvatra samabuddhayaha te prapnuvanti mameva sarvabhutahite rataha. Synonyms. Ye, those who, tu, but, aksharam, that which is beyond the perception of the senses, anirdeshyam, indefinite, avyaktam, unmanifested, pariyupasate, completely engaged in worshipping, sarvatragam, all-pervading, achintyam, inconceivable, cha, also, kūtastham, unchanging, achalam, immovable, dhruvam, fixed, sanyamya, controlling, indriya gramam, all the senses, sarvatra, everywhere, samabuddhayaha, equally disposed, te, they, prapnuvanti, achieved, mam, me, eva, certainly, sarvabhutahite, for the welfare of all living entities, rataha, engaged. Translation. But those who fully worship the unmanifested, that which lies beyond the perception of the senses, the all-pervading, inconceivable, unchanging, fixed and immovable, the impersonal conception of the absolute truth, by controlling the various senses and being equally disposed to everyone, such persons engaged in the welfare of all at last achieve me. So Bhagavan says that Arjuna, it is not the case that I am not attainable by some other process. They will also attain me, but with much endeavor. So, how to worship the unmanifest Akshara Brahma? That is mentioned in these two verses. Number 1, by controlling the senses and mind. Sanyamendriya gramam. So perfect control of all the senses and mind is very essential from the very beginning. Number 2, by being equally disposed to everyone. Sarvatra samabuddhayaha. Sarvatra samabuddhayaha. So that, as Bhagavan said, Panditaha Samadarshinaha. So this equal vision is very, very important to worship the unmanifest, all-pervading, unchanging truth. Number 3 is engaging in welfare activities, sarva bhuta hiterataha. And number 4, difficult for ordinary people, much penance associated with this process. So that's why Bhagavan says, yes, Arjuna, it is possible to attain me by the upasana of Akshara Brahma, but it is very, very difficult. That he will say in the next verse, that is in verse 5. He says, Kleshodhikatarastesham avyaktasakta chetasam avyakta hi gatir dukkham dehavadbhiravapyate. Synonyms. Kleshaha, trouble. Adhikataraha, very much. Tesham, of them. Avyakta, to the unmanifested. Asakta, attached. Chetasam, of those whose minds. Avyakta, towards the unmanifested. He, certainly. Gatihi, progress. Dukkham, with trouble. Dehavadbhihi, by the embodied. Avapyate, is achieved. Translation. For those whose minds are attached to the unmanifested, impersonal feature of the Supreme, advancement is very troublesome. To make progress in that discipline is always difficult for those who are embodied. So, in these 3 verses, 3, 4, and 5, Bhagavan says, yes, it is possible by them who are following these principles, that is by controlling the senses and mind, by being equally disposed to everyone, by engaging in welfare activities. But yes, it is difficult for ordinary people. Klesha adhikatara tesham avyakta asakta chetasam. Asakta chetasam, whose minds are still attached to this material world. It is very difficult for them. Unless one is completely unattached with this material concept of life, it is very, very difficult to worship the unmanifest, inconceivable form of the Lord. That is Akshara Brahma. So now Bhagavan says this particular verse, that is this verse number 5, Kleshodhikatarastesha. Because in the previous 2 verses we see 3 and 4, Bhagavan says, yes, I am attainable by that means also, that process also. So immediately this question may come in our mind, that if you are attainable by both the means, then where is the excellence of the former? Then why did you say that Shraddhaya Parayote, Shraddhaya Paraya Upeta Te me Yuktatamo Mata? Why? Yuktatama, why? If you are attainable by both the means, then where is the excellence of the former? That is worshipping of the personal form. This question may come in our mind. So anticipating this, Bhagavan utters this verse number 5. Klesha adhikatarastesha. So we see, we can see the difference or the comparative study of Saguna Upasana and Nirguna Upasana. In terms of practice, if we see Saguna Upasana in case of Saguna Upasana. And Nirguna Upasana, we see, 1 minute. So, so in terms of practice, we see understanding the unmanifest representation of the Supreme is very difficult. Nirguna Upasana and Saguna Upasana, comparative study. Whereas Saguna Upasana is a simpler practice where the mind can easily get attracted to the beautiful form of the Lord. Next point is, this process, Nirguna Upasana, is very difficult process. Extensive study, that is all Upanishads, Bhagavad Gītā, Brahma Sutra, these are all needed. And we see, on the other hand, for Saguna Upasana, chanting the holy name of the Lord, it is a very blissful and easy process, comparatively easy process, and of course a very blissful process. And in terms of realization, we see Nirguna Upasana, this is, we can say, a partial realization, that is the realization of the Sat and Chit part of the Satchidananda Swarupa of the Lord. Whereas Saguna Upasana, it gives complete realization, that is Sat Chid Ananda. All, that is existence, knowledge and bliss, all the complete experience can be attained. Number 4, Nirguna Upasana may come to the platform of Bhakti Yoga by the grace of the Lord or by the grace of a devotee. Still faces many problems for being unable to give up previous practices. Because we see in Nirguna Upasana, there are different kind of meditation associated with it, which is known as Vedantic meditation, which is a 15 steps process. It has many similarities with Ashtanga Yoga, but some other limbs are also added to it. So this is that previous practices maybe they may face some problem in giving up the previous practices. Whereas we see in Saguna Upasana, no risk or trouble or difficulty in approaching the Lord directly. That is worshipping the Ashavigraha. And we see unmanifest realization is against the nature of the spiritual blissful self, because we see there is the absence of rasanubhuti, as we discussed. Rasanubhuti, the exchange of rasas with the Lord. Whereas in Saguna Upasana, we see rasanubhuti is satisfied. We see Nirguna Upasana, it is aparoksha anubhuti, whereas Saguna Upasana is interactive. Point 7, success never guaranteed at the end if absolute truth is not realized in case of Nirguna Upasana. And success is guaranteed as the process and the goal is of the same nature. Number 8, absolute truth is considered as all-pervading only, whereas the all-pervading energy, the Saguna Upasana, they consider, the Upasakas, they consider that the all-pervading, the Lord is all-pervading by his energy and as super soul. The Lord residing in the hearts of the all living entities as Paramatma. So, and as he says that we studied from verse number 7, the cause of all causes, the source of everything, the essence of everything. So the all-pervading nature. So by his energy, he is all-pervading, and also as Paramatma, he is present in all the atoms. So number 9 is Nirguna Upasana, this process. In this process, the restricting the senses. This process involves restricting the senses, the complete restraint of all the senses. It is needed in case of Nirguna Upasana. Whereas in Saguna Upasana, it is the engaging of all senses. All senses. There is no artificial restraint or restriction. As we also discussed in many places, in 2.59 probably, Param Drishtva Nivartate, there we discussed that when we test something which is superior, then automatically we lose the urge to test the inferior things. So when the senses are engaged in some higher taste gathering objects or object, then it is a very spontaneous process. Like by the tongue, we are uttering the holy name of the Lord. We are tasting the prasadam. So by eyes, we are seeing the beautiful form of the Lord. By our ears, we are hearing his holy names and his leelas, his pastimes. So by our nose, we are inhaling the fragrant flowers and tulasi leaves offered to the Lord. By our hand, we are decorating the Lord, we are decorating the temple. By our legs, we are walking down to the temple. So all the limbs are engaged for a higher purpose. So in the worship process only, in the process of worshipping, all the senses are engaged. So here restricting the senses, and for Saguna Upasana, engaging the senses. Point number 10 is the success of Nirguna Upasana depends on the own endeavor of the sadhaka. Whereas Krishna takes the responsibility to deliver the surrendered worshipper by his causeless mercy and parental love that he has for his devotees. And number 11 is here the upasakas worship the indivisible spirit which is devoid of all attributes. The concept is this: the indivisible spirit devoid of all attributes. Whereas the Saguna Upasana, it says that the Lord is possessed of knowledge, power, and activity. The form. Satchidananda Vigraha. And we see that here all the Shaktis, that is Kriya Shakti, Jnana Shakti, and Dhadini Shakti, all are assembled here. But one common point is also there, that is both Saguna Upasana and Nirguna Upasana accepted in the Vedas. But here in Bhagavad Gita, the Lord specifically says, yes, as in the Vedas, I had mentioned that I am attainable by both the process, that is Saguna Upasana and Nirguna Upasana. Both are accepted in the Vedas, and here also Bhagavad Gita is also accepting. But at the same time, Bhagavan says that Nirguna Upasana is little difficult for the embodied people who have not conquered their senses completely, and who is still having some attachment with this material world, and who has some material concept still there in the mind. So all these things Bhagavan also says in Bhagavad Gita, which was not mentioned in the Vedas. And then Bhagavan says, Ye tu sarvani karmani mai sanyasya matparaha ananyenaiva yogena mam dhyayanta upasate teshamaham samuddharta mrityu samsara sagarat bhavami na chirat partha maya veshita chetasam. Synonyms: ye, those who; tu, but; sarvani, all; karmani, activities; mai, unto me; sanyasya, giving up; matparaha, being attached to me; ananyena, without division; matparaha, being attached to me. Sanyasya, giving up; matparaha, being attached to me; ananyena, without division; eva, certainly; yogena, by practice of such bhakti yoga; mam, upon me; dhyayantaha, meditating; upasate, worship; tesham, of them; aham, I; samuddharta, the deliverer; mrityu, of death; samsara, in material existence; sagarat, from the ocean; bhavami, I become; na, not; chirat, after a long time; partha, O son of Pritha; mai, upon me; aveshita, fixed; chetasam, of those whose minds. Translation: but those who worship me, giving up all their activities unto me, and being devoted to me without deviation, engaged in devotional service, and always meditating upon me, having fixed their minds upon me, O son of Pritha, for them I am the swift deliverer from the ocean of birth and death. So in 3 to 7. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. These 5 verses. In the first 2, 3 and 4, Bhagavan says that by sorry, by Nirguna Upasana also he is attainable. Then in verse number 5 he says, but that Upasana, that process is very difficult to practice. And in verse number 6 and 7, Bhagavan says something very special. He promises, which we also discussed, that is in these points, that is the Nirguna Upasana depends on the own endeavor of the sadhaka, whereas the Saguna Upasana, Krishna takes the responsibility to deliver. That's why he said, see, Tesham aham samudharta mrityu samsara sagara. He says, ye tu sarvani karmani mai sanyasya, who sannyasa means giving up all the activities unto me, to me, and mat paraha, that is being attached to me. Ananyaneva yogena mam dhyayantu upasate. They are undeviatingly, without any distraction, constantly dhyayantaha, meditating, upasate, worshipping me. Tesham aham samudharta mrityu samsara sagara. I personally deliver them from the ocean of birth and death. Bhavami nachirat partha maya deshita chetasa. So, whose minds are completely fixed upon me. So, I delivered them. Not after a long time. Na chirat partha. Very soon I deliver them. So, this is very beautiful. We see it is Krishna's promise. See, Tesham aham samudharta mrityu samsara sagara. I personally take the responsibility to deliver them from this material existence. How beautifully he says, as in the same way the parents take care of their children, Bhagavan takes care of his surrendered children. In Garuda Purana, it is said that he lifts such a devotee from the ocean of material existence by coming on the back of Garuda. So he comes and just picks the devotee from the ocean of birth and death. As it is said in this purport, as an expert swimmer also cannot help himself when fallen in the middle of the ocean. So it is only possible if Krishna himself takes the responsibility to deliver. Then the success is guaranteed, as we discussed. Otherwise, by our own endeavor, we don't know how far we can go. So only desire of a pure devotee is to satisfy Krishna and no material desire for his small self. That we have to understand, as it is mentioned. Ananyaneva yogena dhyayanta upasate matparaha mayaveshita chedasa. So this we have to understand. As Vishwanatha Chakrabarti Thakura says, that bhakti rewards the results of all processes, even without knowledge. If also a bhakta doesn't know about the supreme truth, but his love is pure, then it is possible to receive all the results of all the processes through bhakti only. And regarding the definition of sannyasa, Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakura says, having given up all other processes for the purpose of attaining Krishna. And Baladeva Vidya Bhushana says, giving up all prescribed duties, considering them as distraction from bhakti. As it is said, ye tu sarvani karmani mahi sanyasya. This part. And Sridhara Swami says that worship me with wholehearted devotion. And Moksha Dharma says, whatever among the four goals, dharma, artha, kama, moksha of human life, can be achieved by various spiritual practices, is automatically achieved without such endeavor by the person who has taken shelter of Narayana. Ya vai sadhana sampattihi purushartha chatushtaye taya vina tadapnoti naro narayanashrayah. So it is like that verse, Sarva Dharman Parityajya, with the same essence, there Bhagavan says, that is, we have to understand that there is no need to consider past sins. In many places, Bhagavan says, as we just mentioned, api chet suduracharo bhajate mam ananyatha sadhureva samantavyaha samyak vyavasito hisa. Why? Because kaunteya pratijanihi name bhakta pranashyati. So, and here also in 18.66, here in 12.67, how Bhagavan assures, and we see there is no need to consider past sins, as Bhagavan says. No need to futilely trying to deliver oneself. Sarvadharman Parityajya verse I am talking about. And take shelter of Krishna, that is highest perfection of human life. So the same essence we can get from these few verses also. The conclusion. And the final conclusion will be given by the Lord in the last chapter, of course. But in different places, as we see, in different contexts, Bhagavan is actually giving his conclusion. It is our responsibility to understand, and whether we can understand or not. Whether still, if we feel many of us can endeavor on our own to attain the highest goal of human life. But if we strongly believe in the words of the Lord in different places of Bhagavad Gītā and in Śrimad Bhagavatam and in some other places also, then definitely without endeavoring, without keeping 100% faith on our own endeavor, we would completely surrender to the Lord. And as he promises, Name Bhakta Pranashyati, and as he promises here, that is, Tesham Aham Samudhartam Mrityu Samsara Sadhana. And as he says in different places, that he will definitely come back to my abode. So we will engage ourselves accordingly. Okay, so with this, we will close today's session. वञ्चाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Thank you very much for joining. Hare Krishna.